Good day, Deep and Word family. Welcome to day 118 of our Bible study review. Today we're going through chapters 9 through 12 of the book of Isaiah. So yesterday we left off when we saw a vision of the throne room and the vision of our Messiah sitting on high. And then we saw the prophecy of the coming invasion of the Assyrian king who would eventually, disperse all of Israel, the northern kingdom, and try to come down to taunt Judah as well. But now in chapter 9, we see the coming king of the earth. It's talking about Messiah. It's a beautiful prophecy about the first and the second coming. We will see a compound prophecy in one. But let's start with verse 1. Let's read all the way through verse 3. Nevertheless, there shall be no more gloom for her who was in anguish. In the former time, he contemptuously treated the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. But in the latter time, he shall make it glorious by the way of the sea, beyond the Jordan, in the Galilee of the nations. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them the light was shined. You have multiplied the nation and increased the joy. I have to stop and I want to show you something. So I'm going to be like Dora the Explorer and pull up this map again. All right, y'all. So let's get to it. We know that to fulfill the prophecy, our Messiah was born in where? Bethlehem, right? In the southern territory of Judah. But then where did his mother and stepfather, I guess you can say, where did they settle? Up there in Nazareth, right? And what did they say? Nothing good could come from Nazareth, right? Nothing good could come from the northern territory where Samaria is, right? And we know that by the Sea of Galilee, with the sons of Zebedee, that's who he called to be his first disciples, right? So this was the land. This is where the light was shown. This was a land that was detestable because it was right in the territory of the northern kingdom. And so we see that this great light that is prophesied, the great light is our Messiah. This is where they settled, but he was born here. So let's read about this compound prophecy of our Messiah's first and second coming. We will see a glimpse of both in verses 6 and 7 of chapter 9. So let's read. For unto us a child is born, and unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. Well, the government wasn't upon his shoulder during his first coming. We know that that will happen in his second coming. But nonetheless, he was born into the world and showed himself. All right. And it says, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, and Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end. Upon the throne of David and over his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with justice and righteousness. What is that? That's the laws. Okay. And it says, from now until forever, the zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. And the rest of chapter 9 is going back to speaking a word, humbling the proud hearts of the 10 northern tribes. It says that the word goes out from Yahuwah against Jacob, but it falls on Israel. And some people may be confused when you hear that because Jacob is Israel, but he was later renamed Israel. But those who were called Israel were the 10 northern tribes. They were also associated with the name Ephraim. Okay, so they themselves, they started to make political alliances with Syria or the Arameans, right? And then they wanted to come down to taunt Judah, their own brother. And so the word of Yahuwah is against the 10 northern tribes, better known as Ephraim, because of their puffed up pride. He says, I will humble them, and I will humble them through the Assyrians. And then chapter 10 opens up with woes against God's own nation, Israel, because they're fallen away. So let's read the beginning of these woes. It says, woe to those who decree unrighteous decrees and who write unjust judgments, which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from justice and to take away the right from my people, the poor of my people. Let's keep reading. That the widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. And what will you do in the day of punishment, and in the desolation which shall come from afar? To whom will you flee for help, and where will you leave your wealth? These are the woes against Israel, the 10 northern tribes. Why? Because they have fallen away. They have forgotten their God, right? They do not love him with all of their heart, their soul, and their strength, and they do not love their own brethren as their own. You see that they are taking advantage of the widows. They are taking advantage of the fatherless. They are robbing them of the little that they have. And he says, who will you turn to? Where will you hide? Because this judgment is coming directly from me. But then there is a woe against Assyria. Now it says that our Heavenly Father is using Assyria as a rod and as a staff to discipline his own people. So let's read about it and see what it says right here in verse 5. Woe to Assyria, the rod of my anger, and the staff in whose hand is my indignation. I will send him against an ungodly nation. The ungodly nation is Israel. That's who he's saying. I'm going to send them, right? I'm going to send Assyria to discipline them. But Assyria will go too far. Let's read about it starting in verse 12. It says, when Yahuwah has performed all of his work on Mount Zion and Jerusalem, he will say, I will punish the fruit of the stout heart or the proud heart of the king of Assyria and the glory of his high looks. For he says, the king of Assyria says, by the strength of my hand and my wisdom I have done it, for I am prudent. Essentially, Yahuwah says he's going to humble the proud Assyrians as well. And we know that is true because when they were trying to come down during the time of King Hezekiah and trying to claim that they have pretty much wiped away all the other nations and none of their gods have saved them. So they were telling Judah, do not trust in your God because your God is not going to save you from my hand. Do you remember that? So furthermore, our Father says, I will humble Assyrians because of their proud heart. And then he says right here in verse 15, shall the axe boast against itself, him who hews with it? He says, or shall the saw magnify itself against him who wields it? Now let's read in verse 20 what it has to say. It says, in that day, the remnant of Israel and those who have escaped the house of Jacob shall never again depend on him who struck them, right? And it says, but shall depend on Yahuwah, the Holy One of Israel. In truth, the remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, to the mighty God. Do you remember that King Ahaz, he stripped all of the bronze, right? All of the bronze from the temple and gave it to the king of Assyria because the Syrians and his own brother Israel were coming against him? Even the southern kingdom of Judah was placing their trust in the Assyrians. Instead of crying out and praying to Yahuwah Elohim, they were placing their trust in another nation. And let's read verses 24 through 25. Therefore, thus says Yahuwah Elohim of hosts, O my people who dwell in Zion, do not be afraid of the Assyrian. Okay, so that's what this passage is about. He says, he shall strike you with a rod and shall lift up his staff against you after the manner of Egypt. For yet very little while, and the indignation shall cease, and my anger shall be directed to their destruction. And we know this to be true because the king of Assyria, he went back to his homeland and his 2 sons killed him. All right. So essentially this entire passage, or you could say this chapter, is dedicated to humbling the proud of heart. And this applies to everyone. As you know, he was humbling Israel, his own people, his own nation, but they fell away. And he was like, you're puffed up in pride, so you're going to get a slice of this humble pie. And then the ones who came, right, to discipline you, they got a little too puffed up in pride, so I'm going to give them a slice of this humble pie as well. And then we walk into one of my favorite chapters of Isaiah because it gives us a wonderful peek into the millennial kingdom, right? When the time that our Messiah comes to rule and reign upon the earth and what it will look like. It draws pictures for us. I love it. So let's just start reading. I'm going to start with verses 1 through 3, and then I'll kind of go through other parts of this chapter as well. So let's start reading. It says, and there shall come forth a shoot from the stump of Jesse, and the branch shall grow out of his roots. The spirit of Yahuwah shall rest upon him, and the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and the fear of Yahuwah. He shall delight in the fear of Yahuwah, and he shall not judge by what he sees. When we get to the renewed covenant, or maybe you remember certain passages where our Messiah was actually responding to people's thoughts. They didn't even get a chance to release their words, but he responded to their thoughts just to show them exactly who he was. He is God in the flesh. And in the middle of verse 4, this is what it says, and I believe this is a picture of Armageddon. It says, he will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall slay the wicked. Verses 6 through 9 paint this beautiful picture of what it's going to be like when our Messiah comes to rule and reign upon the earth. Let's read. It's so beautiful, y'all. I love it so much. It says, the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the young goat, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. So these animals will not be seeking each other as prey. They will all be eating off of the vegetation. Let's continue reading in verse 8. The nursing child shall play by the hole of the asp, which is a snake, basically. It says, and the weaned child shall put his hand in the viper's den. They shall not hurt or destroy in all of my holy mountain. For the earth shall be full of the knowledge of Yahuwah as the waters cover the sea. And then we move forward towards verse 12, and it talks about Messiah being this banner for all nations. We know that every nation has their own flag, and when they go to war, they put up their flag, and it says that Messiah will be the flag for all nations. So let's read what it has to say in verse 12. It says, he shall set up a banner for the nations and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. The envy of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not harass Ephraim. This has not taken place yet, all right? Our Messiah is the one who is going to gather all of us back to the land. And it says at that time, right? This is the fulfillment of the stick of Ephraim and the stick of Judah coming together as one stick. That hasn't happened yet, y'all. That will happen at his second coming. And chapter 12 is a hymn of praise, and it's encouraging us to always praise him, for he is the one who brings salvation unto us. We know that the Father's name is Yahuwah or Yahuwah, right? And then the Son's name. Many people call him Yeshua. Many still call him Jesus. But if you want to go back to the true, like Paleo Hebrew, it is Yehoshua, which means salvation of Yah. And so we are called to sing praises and to lift him on up high, right? To exalt his name because he is exalted. He is the highest, right? Our Messiah is from everlasting to everlasting. He has always existed with the Father. And this is a beautiful song of praise. I encourage you to sing your own song of praise. Maybe write your own, even if there's no words, just sing it in your heart unto him. Y'all, this is something that we will be doing during the millennial reign of Christ. And then when New Jerusalem comes down, we will be praising him for the rest of our days, for all of eternity. We might as well get used to it and start doing it now. Deep in Word family, that's all that I have for you today. Until tomorrow, Yah bless.